In August 1982, Cindy Williams and Penny Marshall's last conversation as friends. Williams had one request while she was pregnant. She turned down millions of dollars because the answer she got was so mean. Their popular show ended. Their friendship ended. There was silence for 30 years. In those last talks, the entertainment business hid what really happened. But the truth shows a system that made a pregnant woman pick between her job and her baby. What they asked Williams to do was impossible. Penny Marshall grew up in the Bronx. From the moment she opened her eyes in 1943, her childhood felt loud and full of life. She grew up at 3235 Grand Concourse, which seemed to be a place where future greats would meet. It was home to Neil Simon. That's where Calvin Klein grew up. Ralph Lauren got it too. Those rooms have been seen by Patty Chayefsky as well. Penny was surrounded by talented people long before she knew what that meant. She had to wear tap shoes when she was only 3 years old because her mother was a strict dance teacher. Soon, she was dancing at local events with the Marshallettes, her little feet pounding out beats while her mother yelled counts from the side. The room was too small. But there was music, stories, and the steady whirring of her dad's industrial film loops. As the tap shoes hit the floor every day, Penny learned how to be disciplined and put on a show without even trying. It got deep inside her. Her skills got better quickly. By the time she was 3, she was planning little dances for the Marshallettes to do. She helped her mom teach other kids when she was 6 years old. She learned how to laugh without skipping beats. She learned how to be serious without coming across as too serious. She was a dancer, a teacher, and a performer by the time she was a teenager. She wouldn't fully understand how those early years changed her until much later, when she went to sets that were colder and less forgiving than any Bronx stage. After that, things changed quickly. She quit living in New York and went to the University of New Mexico to study psychology and math. But when she was 19, she got busy. In 1963, she married her boyfriend Michael Henry and had a daughter named Tracy Reiner. She tried to go to school and work at the same time for a while, but the stress made her drop out of college. As a director for the Albuquerque Civic Light Opera Association, she made money for her young family. After 3 years of marriage, it ended, and she was left with almost nothing as a single mother in 1966. She had to get tough after that. That made her want to do better because she wanted the best for Tracy. She went to Los Angeles in 1967. As a secretary, she had a hard time, so she took any small acting job she could find. A lot of writers, actors, and comedians hung out at her brother Gary Marshall's house all the time. She became part of their artistic group. Gary told her she should take acting lessons and gave her small parts in his projects. Penny took all of them. She played strange people in ads. She played the awkward parts that would have scared off other actors. Just one ad. She was even cast as the girl who looked messy before, with stringy hair, while Farrah Fawcett played the girl who looked beautiful after. Penny laughed about it now, but it hurt at the time. She learned to enjoy her odd charm, though. It turned into a weapon. These small parts helped her grow over time. She kept coming back. She didn't give up. She didn't quit while others did. Networks didn't think she could ever be in charge of a show, but she kept showing that she could hold a scene. She got the part of Myrna Turner on The Odd Couple in 1970. Even though it seemed like a small part, she played that secretary for 4 years with a sincere and funny style that people loved. Those first few years were not fun. They hurt sometimes. They were very tiring. But they worked out the toughness that people would later see as natural comedy. Cindy Williams grew up in a different place, but her life took some unexpected turns. She was born in Van Nuys, California, on August 22, 1947. Bashar, her father, fixed electronics, and Francesca, her mother, worked as a waitress while she raised Cindy and Carol Ann, her sister. The family moved to Dallas when Cindy was 1 year old. She went back to Los Angeles when she was 10 years old. She fell in love with playing during those years. She made up short shows. She sang them in school stages and church rooms. She thought that Debbie Reynolds would one day find her and make her famous. In that small house, those dreams seemed very big. They also kept her moving. She was only 1 year behind Sally Field at Birmingham High School. Funny and on time, Cindy stood out. At a talent show, she did Bob Newhart's driving teacher routine, which made the whole room light up. She went to Los Angeles City College to study theater arts after high school. There, she met Lynn Stewart, and the two of them snuck into auditions in the hopes of getting a part. As a young actor, Cindy was trying to get through the uncertainty that comes with going to lessons and casting calls and learning as much as she could. After that, something amazing happened. At the beginning of the 1970s, Cindy quickly booked 3 big movies. She was in Travels with My Aunt, directed by George Cukor, in 1972. In 1973, she played Laurie Henderson in American Graffiti, a movie by George Lucas. Ron Howard, Harrison Ford, and Richard Dreyfuss became more well-known after that movie. Cindy was up for Best Supporting Actress at the 1974 BAFTAs. Later that same year, she was in The Conversation by Francis Ford Coppola. She was only 26 years old, but she was already working with famous directors. It looked like she was going to shoot to fame, but Hollywood can be mean. It took Cindy longer to make movies after these titles. She was too well known to go back to being a waitress, but not well known enough to play the lead in a movie. She kept trying out and got guest roles on shows like Room 2222, but nothing matched how good she was. She was stuck between being successful and moving on to the next level. Well known and skilled, but not moving. Then TV came along and changed everything. Cindy was paired with Penny Marshall before either of them became important. To write sitcom stories for each other. It worked. In order to fill in for a short time on Happy Days, Gary Marshall hired 2 Chicago girls who could talk quickly. They tried out. They did a great job. Shirley and Laverne only showed up in 1 episode, but their excitement hit right away. People loved them. Because of how well they got along, the network quickly ordered a spin-off. Their small job turned into a big deal across the country. They were amusing. They had flaws. They were real in a way that comedy rarely let women be. Laverne and Shirley was one of the most watched TV shows in the United States for many years. Their relationship began as a favor, turned into an event, and then turned into a part of their lives that neither of them could have imagined. When they were young and dancing in the Bronx or writing plays in Van Nuys. Something very strange happened on TV very quickly in January 1976. On Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley played loud, funny, blue-collar friends. The fans loved them so much that ABC bosses could feel it in the room. When the episode aired on January 27, 1976, people were shocked right away. The two were talked about all week, and the network rushed to make a sequel. They said yes in just 3 months. By January 27, they put Laverne and Shirley right after Happy Days on Tuesday nights. More than 16 million people watched the first episode, and it was clear that they wanted these 2 women to come back right away. They went from a guest spot to a full series in a very short time, which shows how popular they were and how quickly they connected with people. The show was already great, but its setting and heart made it even better. Instead of polished and glamorous characters, the audience saw 2 friends from Milwaukee who work at Schatz Brewery as bottle cappers. The rent was too high and the neighbors were strange. Their pay looked like those made by most Americans in the 1950s and 1960s. It wasn't often that Milwaukee was shown on TV, and the show gave the city a new look. It was easy for people to connect with Laverne and Shirley because their problems seemed real. Their lives could have been better, but they kept going with fun and hope, and their friendship seemed real. That kind of friendship felt like it was won, not written down. Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams had as much to do with making the show what it was as any writer. They laughed and made up jokes together late at night. People laughed so hard that they could hardly breathe as they made up new lines and played them. The slapstick rhythm that the show became famous for came from how well they worked together, and their friendship showed in their acts. She really meant it when Marshall said they were more like family than friends. People who watched could feel that connection even if they didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. Big things began to happen in the 3rd and 4th seasons of the show. In the United States, Laverne and Shirley was the most watched show in 1978 and 1979. More than 30 million people watched every show in 1979 alone, making the two actresses some of the most bankable TV stars of all time. The show's popularity led to crossovers with Happy Days and made the characters famous in a way that not many shows could. Even after the show stopped in 1983, reruns kept getting a lot of viewers for years. But success often comes with stress, and there were problems going on behind the scenes. The plan was very strict. The show had several cameras and ran in front of a live crowd, which meant the performers worked 14 to 16-hour days. The first rehearsals were on Monday and went through Saturday. Episodes were taped on Sundays. New script pages would sometimes come just hours before the show. In the end, Cindy Williams said she was so tired she couldn't sleep at night and would sometimes nod off during takes. Penny Marshall said that the speed made them tired both physically and mentally. Until they didn't have much money left for fun. It also got more creatively tense. The writers couldn't agree on whether the show should go for crazy slapstick or stick to character-based humor. Penny had more power because her brother Gary Marshall was an executive director, but Cindy felt like her ideas weren't always taken into account. There were fights over jokes and scenes. Many writers came and went because they couldn't handle the stress. Reports said that there was fighting, yelling, and swearing on the set. It looked like the show was always funny, but behind the jokes, everyone on the team was pretty worn out. The stress got so bad that producers secretly tried out other actors for Penny Marshall's part. They were afraid that Cindy Williams would quit, and they thought they would lose all of their chemistry. Liberty Williams and Penny were even filmed in a test scene. Executive at ABC Michael Eisner saw both versions and hid the Liberty Williams tape. He also made sure that Cindy's performance got to the people who make decisions. He later said that the Liberty test was fine, but it wasn't magical. This move showed how weak the relationship had become and how close the show was to falling apart before it even got to its best. More and more trouble showed up over the years. Cindy sometimes felt like she wasn't getting enough attention from Penny Marshall's growing creative impact. Cindy wanted to have more control over her character and the stories that were being told, but the network leaders wanted changes to keep ticket sales high. With each new stress, the two actors moved farther apart. Their relationship, which used to be easy, got tense as both women tried to balance their own goals with the heavy demands of fame. Then things began to change. Cindy Williams found out she was pregnant, and the production expected her to keep working while she was pregnant with almost no changes to her routine. She thought that the job cared more about how well she did than about her health or the health of her baby. It was planned for her to be on set during her third trimester, and some of the work was even set to happen close to her due date. Cindy wasn't sure if this was safe. She wouldn't be pushed to work hours she might not be able to handle. Penny tried to lighten the mood by making a joke about how Cindy might be the worst pregnant person ever. But the stress was already too much. Cindy quit the show after only 2 episodes of the 8th season because she didn't think she had any other choice. In 1982, Cindy Williams got pregnant at a time when her work and personal life were pulling her in different ways. Each day, the pull got stronger. She was going to have her first child soon and just wanted fewer hours and a plan that would be better for her health. She thought it made sense, but the studio demanded she keep working on everything, no matter how far along she was. Soon, she felt stuck and had to make a choice that no one should have to make. She either put her baby in danger or stood up for herself. Everything fell apart when she refused to sign the contract that said she had to work through her pregnancy. A simple request turned into a fight over rights and respect at a time when pregnant actors didn't have many of them. The situation got out of hand when the studio pushed back. Talks quickly broke down. And by August 1982, she had sued Paramount Television and the show's makers for $20 million. They tried to get her to leave, and she said they wouldn't take care of her medical needs. The case made headlines across the country and sparked a national debate about how fair Hollywood is. But even though the case was settled quietly for an amount that wasn't made public, it had already changed her future. She was let out of her contract and off the show before most of the 8th season aired. The court case shook up her career and showed how weak women were when they tried to protect themselves in a field dominated by men. In that 8th season, she was only in 2 shows. Feeney, the character she played, just married a man and left after that. no goodbye from the heart. Fans who had been following her for years never got upset. They didn't have much time to make a good ending, so everything felt rushed. People who watched the show were used to seeing Laverne and Shirley have a lively relationship. Now, there was a hole that couldn't be filled. People could feel the show's lack in every scene because it lost its flow. The show changed into something else after Cindy left. It turned into Laverne and her friends, with Penny Marshall having to carry the whole show by herself. Penny herself said it changed everything because it was like watching Lucy without Ethel. The chemistry was gone and the energy was different, so the numbers dropped quickly. ABC thought about a ninth season for a short time, but Penny wouldn't go on without her partner. After 8 seasons and 178 episodes, the show was over. One exit changed the lives of both women and, in a quiet way, the future of TV as well. Fans were shocked at the time. There were rumors everywhere. A lot of people talked about how Cindy and Penny had fights. They pictured betrayals and fights going on behind the scenes. That wasn't true, though. Cindy had trouble with the studio, not Penny. She wanted a safe place to work while she was pregnant. The directors said no. The case then came. And most of what the people thought they knew was wrong. In the end, Cindy said that her friendship with Penny never ended. It was hidden under a lot of work, paperwork, and news stories that twisted the facts to make a story that sold better. Penny had her own feelings of sorrow. She wrote in her autobiography that she tried to get in touch with Cindy after she left, but managers and agents kept getting in the way. She tried to call her friend but couldn't. For years, they only said hello to each other briefly at events, which felt nice but empty. Penny missed her. She wished they had talked sooner and cleared the air instead of letting it get quiet. After a long time, they finally got to talk the way they had been wanting to for a long time at Penny's house. They weren't apart because they were angry. It was everything around them. After the show finished in 1983, they didn't see or talk to each other much for almost 15 years. They would wave at award shows or say a few words at reunions. People thought they hated each other because neither woman talked about the stress in public. Very busy plans. They were far apart because of unresolved stress and the awkward weight of the past. They didn't start to rebuild what they had lost until the early 2000s. They did work together once more. They were honest about the good old days. The warmth slowly came back. The newspapers, on the other hand, spread their own story. People who wrote about it lied about how quiet it was, and soon people believed in a feud that went on for decades. I could picture anger better than the idea that two friends could grow apart without becoming hostile toward each other. However, Cindy and Penny both said over and over that they cared. When they got back together, they said they were sorry for all the years that had passed. From the beginning, they had a real bond, and it stayed that way. It began in 2000, when David Lander left a message for Penny Marshall. He told her that Cindy Williams and Bill Hudson were having a hard time in their marriage. As Penny read it, she felt something move inside her. She had always felt sorry for Cindy, but since Cindy broke up with Laverne and Shirley in 1982, things had been rough between them. But this news felt different. She felt like a small door that she had been waiting for years had opened. She saw that she could talk to them as a friend instead of a co-worker. She sometimes saw Cindy at TV Land events, but they only talked for a short time. There was nothing real or warm. She kept the message close to her heart and was ready to help them cross the line they had never been able to. Not long after that, in 2000, Cindy went to Penny's house after finishing a play. It felt heavy at the time. And past due. They finally talked about the hurt they had been feeling since the show ended. Later, she wrote that they had the talk she had hoped for 15 years before. Things came out as they sat there together. It was clear that both groups were hurt and that they should have talked when they should have. Cindy told herself that she missed Penny more than she ever let herself say. Penny felt the same way. The space between them slowly became less stiff. It felt like years and minutes were being peeled back. That old tie had begun to breathe again by the time they stood up again. Penny thought about how long she had wanted this. In 1983, the show came to an end. There were 15 years when neither of them said the things that needed to be said. The truth was finally told. Cindy said she wished they had kept in touch. She told him how upset she was, and the truth made them both feel better. After some time, Penny said that she could never see Cindy as anything but special because they had shared so much of their lives together. Their link had always been very strong, as that simple thought showed. Something new started after that talk at Penny's house. Because they healed in secret, they were able to go back into public together. They did interviews about old times, reunion specials, and even sat next to each other on talk shows again. Fans said they still had that spark, and seeing them together after all these years was so much fun. They could present a united front in public because of the mental work they did behind closed doors. When they got back together on ABC and Nickelodeon, fans felt a warm glow that they hadn't felt in decades. But things weren't always easy right away. After 20 years, they got back together on ABC for a reunion show on May 22, 1995. Some people who watched felt stress beneath the laughter. They talked about old characters and stories, but there was some stiffness in the air. Nearby people and friends could feel it. They were still carrying the weight of the past, and it took more time for the cracks to fully heal. But you could still see how much they cared for each other. Just gave it some time to settle down. All of this was going on while Penny Marshall built a career that changed Hollywood. Jumpin' Jack Flash, which came out in 1986 and made $25.5 million in the US, was her first big break. Then became famous with Tom Hanks in 1988. When it opened in the US, that movie made history as the first film directed by a woman to make more than $100 million. At the end, it was worth $116 million just in the US. The next big hit she had was Awakenings, which came out in 1990 and starred Robin Williams and Robert De Niro. The movie got great reviews and was nominated for an Academy Award. Then, in 1992, A League of Their Own came out. It was a big deal in pop culture and showed people something they had never seen before. Penny kept showing that her voice was important in a world where not many women were in charge of cameras. Her influence is still felt today, after many years. Cindy Williams went in a more peaceful direction. She didn't become as famous as Laverne Shirley did after that show's huge success. She worked slowly at first, but then she found her own pace. She played a lead role in Euphoria in 1985. In the 1990s and 2000s, she was a guest star on TV shows like 8 Simple Rules, Lois and Clark, Touched by an Angel, and Law and Order SVU. She went to Broadway in 2007 to play Mrs. Tottendale in The Drowsy Chaperone. The book about her life, Shirley Vaughn Jest, came out in 2015. And gave us a look into her past, her battles, and her thoughts on fame. She didn't try to be a big star like Penny did, but she did build a life full of devoted fans, stage lights, and warm relationships that lasted until the end. Even with all the turns, both women talked about how special their friendship was. They talked about the time when they lived together as kids. They remembered how funny they were with each other. Penny's autobiography, My Mother Was Nuts, talked about how she loved Cindy even after they had a long fight. Cindy said that she and Penny made her laugh more than any other person in her life. They always thought that if they made each other laugh, the crowd would too. It was almost like their energy was built into their bodies. The link between them never really went away, even when they fought and things fell apart. Time kept going. She was 75 years old when she died on December 17, 2018. Cindy Williams also died on January 24, 2023, at the age of 75. Cindy talked about Penny with a lot of love before she died. For many years, they were happy together, so she called her one in a million. This was the end of an era for everyone who watched Laverne and Shirley as a child, or looked forward to their own journeys later. Their lives changed in different ways. They got ahead in their jobs in different ways. But their bond, with all of its turns, wounds, and healing, was still one of the most human and memorable parts of their story.